Great. Thank you. We have Representative Poppe. And Representative Poppe, will you move that House File 1779 be laid over?
Thank you. Yes, House File 1779 to be laid over, hopefully to be included in a future bill, and I'll describe that a little bit. House File 1779 is a request to increase what are considered the agriculture special appropriations, or the ag specials. And the reason why we are doing this is because it's a number of years since we've actually had any change in the ag specials through the University of Minnesota. And actually the last time it was changed, it was a deduction. It was reduced. So that's what I'm going to describe the bill. Just want to give you a little bit of history about the ag specials. And actually the University of Minnesota is a land grant university, and in its origins, when it became a land grant university, that required the university to do three things. It was required to provide military tactics and agriculture and mechanical arts. Those are the three things that land grant university is supposed to be involved in. It wasn't until the 1930s when the military tactics, the regents determined that they were no longer going to do that, but there was a continuation for agriculture and certainly mechanical arts. And we think about liberal arts, we hear about that, but this is to think about more the hands-on approach to doing, to learning about occupations that people could be employed in. Since the early 1900s, the university has carved out, had special appropriations related to agriculture. Over the course of a number of years, those appropriations have adjusted. They've been in different formats, and they've actually been line items in the University of Minnesota budget. But since I think it's in the late 70s, probably early 80s, they actually started to format the appropriations in groupings. And so even though for a number of years there was an extension special line item, and there was also line item for ag research and other things, they were kind of grouped together. And that's, so in 1984 and 85, we started to see that they were included a little bit more together. So what we're doing is asking for, what I'd like to see happen is to have an increase I've got a testifier here who's going to be able to provide a little bit more context about the ag special and kind of where it's been in the last 20 years. So I'm going to have him speak to the issue, and then I'll describe the bill a little bit more in detail.
Thank you. And Mr. Testifier, would you please state your name for the record?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Bruce Clavin. I'm an ag lobbyist here. I work for a number of groups. For the record, you can put me down for Minnesota wheat growers. I also work for the barley growers, potatoes, sugar beets, turkey, beef cattle, and some others. I'm also speaking on behalf today for some of our Ag Coalition members, instead of getting them all up here, the Farm Bureau, the Farmers Union, corn, soybeans, pork, and others. So it's a group, and we're all supporting this effort, and we thank our Ag Chair, Representative Poppe, for picking up this issue. It's something that's important to all our groups, so it's appropriate that she takes it, and we want to thank you for that. I was in preparation for the hearing. I went back 20 years. I just picked 20 years because that seemed like a decent number. And back in 1999, during the 99 budget year, the Ag Special was funded at $57.58 million. So in the 20-year period between then and now, that's a 25% reduction. And the reduction actually occurred in 2011 during that budget year. In 2011, we went down to $42.9 million, and it's been there ever since. Meanwhile, the O&M budget, the total appropriation from the legislature to the university, has gone up in that same time period, almost 20%. Okay, so if you break it down, you go back to 1999, the total appropriation to the U was $585 million and some change. In 2011, by 2011, it dropped down, but now it sits at 660, and the second year last year was 650. And so as a percentage of that total budget, in 1999, the Ag Special was 9.5% of the total budget at the U, and now it is down to 6.5%, and it has been that way for a number of years. And so we think it's time to have that go up after all those years as a percentage. I would also let members know, and probably a lot of you don't know this, that those groups that I mentioned, including the ones that I work for directly, most of them have what are called checkoffs. So for example, there's a wheat checkoff. It's a penny or two a bushel. That goes into a council, and it's run by farmer members who cut up that money for primarily research. It can also be used for promotion. So the money that you see in the bill is leveraged privately by our grower groups. The soybean growers have a checkoff, the corn growers have a checkoff, the pork producers have a checkoff. And so when we need research projects, we will go to the U and offer to partner with them with our checkoff dollars. And so I want to make the point to the members that there's more going on here than just the ag specialists, the partnering with the private individual growers acting through their councils. And I'll take any questions you have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
I have a question. So are there, now is the university refusing some of the research projects because they can't match the checkoff money that's coming from the groups?
Sure, Madam Chair. I don't know that they're refusing projects in and of itself. I think probably part of the effort here, and we see this over in Representative Poppy's committee, we have new, I don't know if I'd call them demands, but new directions that people want us to go out on the farm. Cover crops, pennycress, other things, the Forever Green Institute. She has bills that are over in her committee asking for research on cover crops and soil health and so forth. And so it wouldn't be so much that the corn growers or the wheat growers checkoff is being refused. It's that we're going in a different direction. And so we need to up that effort, whether it's water quality or soil quality or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I know that we'll have a question and for this testifier, or
Yes.
should we return to the bill? For this testifier. Thank you. One more question then,
Thank you,
please.
Madam Chair. So it sounds like
Representative Rumbeck.
this is, thank you, Madam Chair, an ongoing program. Money's been around for a while, but this is entirely new language, so I don't understand why it's all new.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Poppy.
Go ahead. So what we're doing is we're requesting, so some of it is continued language, but what we're asking to do is increase the ag specialists by $10 million, and of those $10 million to have them split in 4 different ways. So if I can just go through the bill a
Return to
little
your
bit.
testimony. Thank you, Representative Poppy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to have 4 different initiatives, $2.5 million each year for the Forever Green initiative. That has been something that's been funded, and again, it's been funded kind of through the ag budget to the university. So it's kind of trying to clean that up a little bit and have it go directly to the university. So $2.5 million for Forever Green, $2.5 for the Ag Research Education Extension and Technology Transfer Program. That's also known as AGREET, and that has been something we have funded most recently. So it's going to give them some ongoing dollars again, so it's directly to the ag specials and not being routed through the Department of Ag and through the ag budget. 2.5 each year for the Minnesota Extension Regional Economic Sustainability Programming, and they do a lot of work with good food access and farm to school kinds of things, and really encouraging that growth of that market, and that's been something that's been ongoing. But they reach out in all parts of greater Minnesota, so not in the metropolitan area, but every other part of the state for economic development and through extension. And then $2.5 million would be for Rapid Ag Response Fund. And we have a number of things that are on the horizon. Hopefully they would never get to Minnesota or never get to the United States, but there are some things that we're concerned about, being African swine fever being one of those issues, that if we have that disease hit the United States, that would mean the depopulation of all of our pork industry. So that's of deep concern. We've heard much about chronic wasting disease, and many people are concerned about that. So that's in there. Emerald ash borer is another one where, it's decimating the forest and the trees. So it's so that's what we're trying to do. Is I'm not necessarily these don't necessarily have to be the 4 things that we would do, but I want to make sure that people understand that $10 million as an increase, which in the overall scheme of things is a really small amount, even though it's a significant amount, it's still fairly small, but it would be very significant in the kind of work that it would do, and it would be very helpful to be able to see the increase, and actually the getting back up to $52 million, nearly $53 million would take us back to what we had 10 years ago in the ag specials. So I'm just requesting that we move that back up. And as you said, a number of these other things are still what would have been in the current, the remainder of the money is what is currently in statute for how those are used in the Agriculture and Extension Service.
Thank you, Representative
Madam
Poppe.
Chair?
Representative Runbeck.
So some of the stuff that's the money will be funding is new. Some of it is a continuation of what's been done in the past, but the money's coming through a different route, a different route. So not through the Department of Ag, instead through the U of M.
Thank you, Madam
Poppe.
Chair and Representative Runbeck. That is correct. So these aren't necessarily new initiatives. They are adding to what the funds are for those initiatives, and they are being directly routed through the university, through the Ag Special, and wouldn't be routed through the Department of Ag. And I think that, there can be discussion about that as well. But to me, since I'm the chair of the Ag Committee, I think that it seems to be a cleaner route to actually increase the Ag Special through the University of Minnesota, because that, otherwise we're doing a pass-through through the Department of Ag. And sometimes that's appealing, and we want to do that. I would think even Mr. Cleveland would say that sometimes, it's okay because agriculture might want to have their fingers in that or their eyes on that. But in this case, it seems like it would be appropriate to have this go to the university in this way.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Claiborne.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Chair. Representative Poppe, you know that this project is a passion of mine and that it's an outstanding program at the University of Minnesota. It is multiple decades in the making. Mm-hmm. The program really needs more than $6 million in each fiscal year. And I would ask that if we are going to try to move this bill through the ag or through the education, that we really talk about the funds that the program truly needs. And we have been investing in this program, as I said, for decades. It is now through proof of concept. It is now really to a place where it can go into the farmers' fields and provide this additional income. And it is at a place where it can bring value to our businesses in Minnesota. So I just want to make sure that the committee understands the importance and relevance of this project. And I would like to see it go through food and agriculture. That would be my first choice. The University of Minnesota has additional requests that need to be funded also through this committee. But I do believe that this program is so vital and so important, not only to the large entities, but also to the small ones and to our farmers. And I would encourage everyone in this committee to support the work and research that comes from the University of Minnesota.
And I will remind members we are rapidly coming to a close, and okay, unless we want to recess and come back. So we'll keep that in mind. And then we'll still be open for public testimony if anybody wants to testify. But Representative Poppe.
Just to that point, Representative Claiborne, I have long supported Forever Green. I've been on the Ag Committee since its inception for us to be able to provide some funding to that. So that's without a doubt. I certainly do support that. I will direct people's attention to 2.1 and 2.2. I'm also stating that to the greatest extent practicable, the Board of Regents must match the funding specified under these clauses in order to have non-state money. And much like Mr. that you were stating, it would be, we do have the opportunity to have checkoff dollars be able to use for that. I know that General Mills is very interested in doing some things. We have a number of larger companies that maybe would be interested in being able to provide some matching dollars as well. So I agree. I think it would be important to be able to provide funding, and I'd look forward to being able to do that. It's just the other thing is the ag budget is much smaller than the higher ed budget. And let me make a point as well to all of the higher ed people that are in the audience, as well as the committee members. I'm actually asking that this be separate from the target that you get, because I think it's important for us to actually target this for the ag specials. But I believe that the University of Minnesota and Minnesota State and the higher ed budget needs to be a target that is as large as possible. I don't want this to carve out the money that you should be getting for that budget. I would like this in addition. That is a great ask for the people that are determining those targets, but that is the ask. I think that this is an important thing, and so I'd like to be able to see it move through the right channels, and the University of Minnesota Ag Specials, to me, since it has not been increased for 10 years, is the right place to do it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And is there anyone from the audience that would like to give public testimony at this point? Seeing none. Representative Poppe, would you like to renew your motion that House File 1779 be laid over?
I would like to do that.
Thank you. Oops, there we go.
Thank you.